Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Only you guys are roll.
Correct. And that's the roll call, just that as well.
Okay. Mrs. Mulcrown,
Here.
Mrs. Jordan. Here. And Mrs. Laura.
Here. We're moving to approving newly appointed board members. Can I get the first action, please?
I move to approve Rebecca Schreiber as the newly appointed District 95 school board member.
I am having a really hard time walking in tonight.
Oh, I'll sit by.
Just say you second.
She say you
I
second.
second.
You said second.
Okay. Mrs. Jordan. Aye. Mrs. Laura.
Aye.
And Mrs. Mulcrown.
Aye. Can I get the second motion, please?
Move to approve Chris Camacho, am I saying that correctly?
Yeah.
Okay, as the newly appointed District 95 school board member.
Second.
Mrs. Laura.
Aye.
Mrs. Jordan.
Aye.
Mrs. Mulcrown.
Aye. And can I get the third action, please?
I move to approve Rachel Novak as the newly appointed District 95 school board member.
Second.
Mrs. Jordan. Aye. Mrs. Mulcrown.
Aye.
Mrs. Laura.
Aye.
Before we administer the oath for anybody who has come today to support their loved one in this endeavor, feel free to stand up, take pictures, move around so that you can get a better view of them as they come out from their board spots to say the oath of office, which they will do together. We would want to stand at our seats where we're at. And it's pretty official. We're gonna have to stand. We've got to put up that right hand, and then we will say our oath. Yep. But not before all the people get in place for pictures. This is important. So does everyone have the oath up? Okay, so when we do this, you're all going to read it together. So a little sing-songy, like we're back in school, since this is a school board. But you obviously will state your name separately, and you will read through this nice long school board.
I, Chris Camacho, do solemnly swear
You guys are all reading it.
You're gonna read it together.
I.
that I
There you go.
Schreiber,
do solemnly swear that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of member of the Board of Education of Brookfield Lagrange Park School District 95, and in accordance with the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Illinois, and the laws of the State of Illinois, to the best of my ability. I further swear that I shall respect taxpayer interests by serving as a faithful protector of the school district's assets. I shall encourage and respect free expression of opinion by fellow board members and others who speak before the board while respecting the privacy of students and employees. I shall recognize that a board member has no legal authority as an individual and that decisions can be made only by a majority vote at the public board meeting. I shall abide by the majority decisions of the board while retaining the right to seek changes in such decisions through ethical and constructive channels. As part of the Board of Education, I shall accept the responsibility for my role in the equitable and quality education of every student in this school district. I shall foster with the board extensive participation of the community, formulate goals, define outcomes, and set the course for Brookfield Lagrange Park School District 95. I shall assist in establishing a structure and an environment designed to ensure all students have the opportunity to attain their maximum potential through a sound organizational framework. I shall strive to ensure continuous assessment of student achievement and all conditions affecting the education of our children in compliance with state law. I shall serve as education's key advocate on behalf of students in our community school or schools to advance the vision of Brookfield Range Park School District 95. And I shall strive to work together with the district superintendent to lead the school district towards fulfilling the vision of the board created, fostering excellence for every student in areas of academic skills, knowledge, and citizenship, and personal development.
Congratulations, everyone. You are now seated board members, so you have the right to take all actions as a board member and vote in this meeting tonight.
Can I get a motion to go to close, please?
A motion to go to close for the purpose to discuss appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the district for the purpose to discuss litigation when an action against, affecting, or on behalf of the particular district has been filed and is pending before a court or administrative tribunal, or when the district finds that an action is probable or imminent, in which case the basis for the finding shall be recorded and entered into the closed meeting minutes.
Okay. Mrs. Mulcrown.
Aye.
Mrs. Jordan.
Aye.
Mr. Concha.
Aye.
Mrs. Laura.
Aye.
Mrs. Novak. And Mrs. Schreiber.
So we'll be gone for a little while, and you feel free to say if you want, but if you also want to leave, we will not be offended. It's up to you.
I just want them well and
Can I get a motion, please, coming out of closed?
I move to approve the employment recommendations as presented.
Second.
Mrs. Jordan.
Aye.
Mr. Camacho. Mrs. Reingruber. Oh, Mrs. Novak.
Aye.
Mrs. Laura.
Aye.
Mrs. Schreiber. And Mrs. Mulcrown.
Close consent agenda? Did anybody have any questions? Alright, we'll get a motion, please.
Move to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second. Mrs. Schreiber.
Aye.
Mrs. Novak.
Aye.
Mrs. Laura.
Aye.
Mr. Camacho.
Aye.
Mrs. Jordan.
Aye.
And Mrs. Mulcrown.
Aye. Appearances before the board? None? No public comment? That's it. Communications, none. FOIA requests?
so we received one FOIA. It was satisfied with information from past requests that we've had. This was a pretty extensive one asking for invoices for an extended period of time and all of our contractors. This was sent to many districts. We provided the information in the amount of time that we needed to, and have not heard back from that requester. So,
Old business, press plus 118.
so this is, we talked about this last time. This makes changes to Press Plus and policy. We had said that all of this we were in agreement with, so we can move forward. Unless there's further discussion.
Get a motion, please.
I move to approve Press Plus 118 as presented.
Second.
Mr. Camacho.
Aye.
Mrs. Laura.
Aye.
Mrs. Novak. Mrs. Schreiber. Mrs. Jordan.
Aye.
Mrs. Mulcrown.
Copy machine?
Yep.
Contract.
Right, so we first discussed this last month, bringing this forward for a vote now. This is an extension of the renewal with Conica. When we discussed this with them, we found to have very favorable terms in that they are holding their costs from our last contract, which to see that in any setting right now, I think is impressive. So we see this as a neutral. There will be an overall add-in cost, and the cost comes because we needed another copier added at Essie Gross because of the ECE program being over there now, and Ladsey having another room there. And so the kids are using, the teachers who are teaching the young ones are using lots of color copies. So we had to get another color copier there. The important part of this is that they are holding costs, which is very important. And I think sometimes it's cost and it's service that we have to look at. Our tech director, Mike Duffy, has a wonderful working relationship with Konica. They come out whenever we need to service the machines. They have an excellent replenishment option for all of the toners and things like that that need to be done. That has not been the case in the past when we worked with other vendors. It was more common to see our machines down than it was to see them running. And Konica has done a really nice job to make sure that that is not what we've experienced with them. Because of those things, I would look for an approval of the agreement with Konica to continue services with them because of the cost and the services that we receive from them. Any questions?
The only question I had was it like an option that we've or something we opted to do to delay payments for 6 months?
So the rationale behind that is because we were in an agreement with them already. And so we had to take delivery of machines to start a new contract. So you're seeing the two contracts kind of blend together. And so one will expire, one will begin, and they will actually install the printers that we've taken in already in January. Twofold for that. One, it allows the old agreement to expire, which is neutral. Two, it doesn't overwhelm our tech department in making sure that all of those are up and running. Summer sounds like an ideal time to do that, except our tech department is 2 people, and we're installing new casting devices on all of our district panels that we have, and our entire phone system is being replaced, and they will take the lead with the companies that they're working with to do that, on top of getting all of our staff devices replaced because we entered into an Apple agreement, and making sure all of our student Chromebooks are ready. So it was beneficial to us to continue the contract to that winter break and then start up the next one when that happened. It's a good question.
All right. We get a motion, please, on that.
I move to approve the Konica Milnota contract as presented.
Second.
Mrs. Shriver?
Aye.
Mrs. Novak? Aye. Mrs. Laura?
Aye.
Mr. Camacho?
Aye.
Mrs. Jordan? Aye. Mrs. McGrath?
Aye. New business, budget review.
Right, so there are 3 documents for your review and board book. If you want a printout of the overview, I do have a printout if that's better for you. If you'd like one, just let me know. Okay. This is our, and I will say, with Dr. Kusnewski leaving us at the end of this meeting, I think the hallmark of where he stands is the great work he has done over his time with the budget. So I would always appreciate any insight that he has to it as well. We were able to work together on this. So Mark, feel free to jump in. This is our first review of the budget. You have the documents which show our expenditures that we're anticipating. also the revenues that we're anticipating. The overview sheet is kind of giving you an idea of, right, what are different funds, what they are expected to bring in revenue, what they are expected to have in expenditures. So you see that for the 26 budget fiscal year, which starts July 1. And you have kind of a backward glance at fiscal year 25's budget. Those are not the realized numbers of it. They are the budgeted numbers. And then next to that, you have the fund balances that we currently hold in May of 25 for all of those different funds. I'm going to go through each of the funds and talk about where our expenditures and revenues come from, maybe give some oversight for the board members that have just come on as well. We'll start with the Ed Fund.
And so,
Yeah, go ahead.
all right, is the fiscal year a calendar year?
Our fiscal year starts in July.
Okay.
Yeah, July 1st through June 30th. And I think maybe in one of our conversations, as you were talking about coming on as a board member, you had saw that our revenues come in at those staggered points where the tax return, where the taxes come in at the county level. And so we will actually kind of always be making an anticipation of what our revenue is going to be, because those numbers can fluctuate. What I will say about revenue is that we always take a very conservative approach to revenue against expenditure. So it is typical that we see better than anticipated revenue, but we make sure, because there are things that we don't know upfront when we have a budget that starts in July 1st, and we don't find out how much the state is giving us in evidence-based funding until October, which we're well into our budget year at that point, and spending money. And so we typically take a very conservative approach to revenue. And with that, I think that it has served the district well. We have not held back expenditures because of that. We've expanded positions, we've expanded opportunities for our students. So you're not seeing that conservative revenue estimating being a negative to what our students experience. In the Ed Fund, this is the lion's share of where our money is. We've seen an increase in expenditures between our fiscal years. You can see that there is a jump between 25 and 26. The majority of those will always come from salary and benefits. Salary and benefits are the majority of that fund. So when we approved our teacher contract 3 years ago and had 5% increases each year, we are starting to feel that. When we, and again, all of those things were budgeted for and important to do, but you start to see those numbers increase. We actually had fairly favorable numbers for benefits this year, but it is never, unfortunately, a decrease. Benefits are always increasing for our staff as far as what we pay into it. And then finally, with salary, we know that we just finished our contract with our service personnel. So that's custodians and paraprofessionals and secretaries, and all of that together also sees an increase. And we knew, especially we wanted to see our paraprofessional pay increase, and we knew going into negotiations where we could be and feel comfortable going into the next fiscal year. And so that has definitely been two of the major impacts. The third impact, and we've talked about this at the board meetings, is in our special education spending, especially to LADSI. So we've seen an increase in that as well. And so those three things really are the lion's share as well of that Ed Fund increase that comes between the two fiscal years. However, even with those expenditure increases, we have revenue to offset that. And again, we are doing that revenue conservatively. And we still see with that increase in expenditures, we are able to make sure that we cover that, and we will go into the year with a bit of a surplus in revenue over expenditures in a very conservative setting.
Right, I had two other questions, with the state evidence-based funding, it seemed like there was some discrepancies across different school districts, and I guess I'm not sure what the criteria was, because the funding looks relatively low compared to some other districts around here, so.
So interestingly enough, District 95 has been the benefactor of the formula itself that the state uses, very convoluted. Many factors go into it. What the goal of evidence-based funding was to look and put districts into tiers as far as what their financials were and how much money the tax base was giving versus what the state was giving. District 95 is a community that most of our revenue from taxes comes from residents, not from commercial. And so in that setting, we actually do not reach adequacy targets like some other districts do. And so we have continuously seen increases. Last year was about $1 billion, where other districts are starting to scale back now. There are absolutely districts that have proportionately got more, but it's because their student population is larger, or there may be more need on that side. But I think from our perspective, we are seeing nice jumps in adequacy, and adequacy is getting to the 70% threshold of what the revenue base is from the taxpayers. And so I believe we're currently at around 68%. So we should see, because the governor did not cut ed funding in the next budget that they just are kind of working through, we should see and we should anticipate an increase in our evidence-based funding again. But I'm going to anticipate that we are more flat and kind of see that revenue come in at a later date and then work through that. At the end of the day, that would go towards what we'll talk about, working through our construction bond that we have, or it would go into our reserve, right into our working cash. But I think that's on our end, we're actually seeing nice increases on evidence-based funding, and we're hoping for that once again.
Chris, I think the other thing to add to evidence-based funding is the formula has what's called a hold harmless. So you can't go backwards. So once you've obtained a certain level of evidence-based funding, you're always guaranteed that amount. And then come October, November, there's this additional funding that for the last 3 years, the governor is allocated. In addition to all this money, here's a pot that gets redivided based on the tier structure Ryan described. And we would get a portion of that new pot of money, which becomes our new adequacy level that we can't fall behind in total dollars. So to Ryan's point, we have seen that number go up about $700,000 per year for the last 2 years. So a net of about 1.5 million that we are not scaling ever back from because you're all harmless. So I know Ryan has built this budget on what we received this year, which we know we're getting. And that boosted that revenue by 1.3 million because we held ourselves in last year's budget. We didn't take the scale up again. So we're kind of doing almost 2-year catch up in that revenue. So you're going to get 5.7 million in evidence-based funding. Even if there's $0 of additional money to go, you're going to get that 5.7. And then those that are in tier 3 and 4 just get less and less and less and less so that we can keep our money. That would make sense.
Oh, it does. And the curiosity for me is also, is there anything that the district can do or we could do to get incremental funding to help with all the other programs and initiatives. That's not already happening. It sounds like you guys have already been doing that, but I don't know if it means we have to be more annoying to like other local politicians, et cetera, but I don't know.
I think right now we have some champions for education that are putting, even in challenging budget times, are putting more money towards education. And I think that that is a huge benefit, one, to the state's education system as a whole. But we are benefiting from that, and we'll talk a little bit. We just saw an increase, this just came, we saw an increase in our preschool for all grant as well, which Mark hasn't seen an increase.
10 years, it's been $77,667 and change. The last 10 years, it's never increased. And there's a catch up then,
Right.
we just learned this last
week.
2 days this
Yeah.
week.
And now it will be $209,000. And to see those are real things that help. So you have politicians in place right now that are making sure that they're funding and trying to do it in an equitable way across the state, which we have not always had. And so we right now are the benefactors of some of that. And so if anything, there's probably a reach out saying thank you for the support that you are giving education when other tough decisions have to be made. It seems to be a priority of the current legislative body and the governor. The one thing that I'll leave with on the education fund is that we know that we have our bond payment that we need to make each year. This was for the construction project. It's roughly $1 million every year. It is not funded through the referendum. It's money that we said that we would pay out of our general operating funds until it was satisfied. So when we did the construction project, the part was on, I guess all of it in the end comes from the taxpayer, right? But some came from that new money, some came from the money that we had. There was an anticipation in the past that the working cash would be the place that we would look to draw down. I would say that in this budget year, just like last budget year, we'd probably be looking to take that $959,000 payment from our education fund once again, which we have the ability to do because I think the revenue side is going to allow us to do that. We also have a healthy fund balance in the ed fund right now. And so moving forward, I think that that is going to be the place that we draw that bond payment from rather than working cash. And I think that when we think about that, that's excellent because working cash was always going to be our runway, right? As things got tighter or funds got tighter, we knew we had that money to help us. We have not had to touch that yet for operating expenditures. Right now, we have touched it for our construction project, right? Capital improvements, the new ECE rooms, the new fax rooms. And so to be able to swap those funds is beneficial to us. But that would be more than likely, we would be proposing that that comes from the ed fund this year, once again, like we did last year. Questions on the ed fund? No. Okay. Operations and maintenance. You can see that we don't have large expenditures this year since the majority of the improvements to the schools are coming through the capital projects fund with the ECE construction at SCG. The one place that we're seeing an increase that I've really accounted for is energy costs in this budget, which continue to grow. That will be something that we look at in the future of how do we address that. You have programs out there that are switching out different pieces within the schools for energy efficiency, solar, those types of things. We'll explore. Doesn't mean we're going to do them, but trying to rein in energy costs is going to be important, because we're seeing an escalation there. But this fund remains healthy, has reserves and is expending less than what revenue is anticipated at. For debt service, remember this is money in and money out. Debt service is the money that the community is obligated to pay for our bonds that we have, that the district has taken over time. And so this is really more of a pass through, but we do typically hold a reserve inside of this for what was our first bond payment, which was about $1 million. We went through the referendum. That will end up at the end of when those bonds expire. It will pay the last year, but we do generate some revenue off of interest off of this. Interest has been very favorable to us over the last 2 years. We do anticipate that decreasing with the change in the economy, but that's a bit to be seen. But again, I think the best way to look at debt service is more about money in and money out. You're not really doing anything except paying that debt with it. Capital projects, I put that in because that is the money that we earmarked last year, in last budget's year, for our project. It does, when put into the expenditures for next year, you can see it puts us at more money expended than revenue in. And we anticipated that, right? This overall is showing less money expended than brought in revenue, except for the capital project. We took that money from our working cash to make sure that we could pay for our project. So that's the delta that you see in the overall budget of why we will spend more than the revenue in. But obviously, we've talked about that in the past, and that is anticipated. The project is up and running right now. Floors are abated, walls are being demoed, and they are running forward. Our site superintendent was making sure everything was up and going this morning when I was there. Very excited to be working with ECI on this project again. And again, hoping to rein in the costs there and keep this project at that 2.1 billion. Transportation, this was a place we were in stress last year. We levied more money into it. We had said we were under stressed in this fund because of increased special education transportation. That transportation has decreased slightly, but the revenues have increased significantly because we levied more money there. What I would say is we will need to look at this again this year to potentially pull back on how much we're levying here, because the problem with transportation is you cannot move the money out of it once it's in. Other funds you can do transfers between, transportation you cannot. So we wouldn't want to see a large surplus grow there when we can do nothing with it except for pay for transportation. So this is a healthy fund again. We anticipate that we will continue to see an increase in some of our special education transportation. We just entered a new contract with First Student, which we approved a few board meetings again. We've anticipated that increase inside of this. So transportation is one that we'll review mid-year to see if we need to maybe shift our levy and not bring in as much revenue as we are this year.
So do the levies then vary between like the different operating buckets? But this, okay.
So we have the ability to move the funds that we're bringing in, and that's what we did. We moved more money to transportation to make sure, because we actually had to do a transfer out of
Last year, yeah.
Last year to make sure that fund stayed solvent. So now with this increase, it not only stays solvent, stays healthy, and we'll probably have a bit more than we would want inside.
I think maybe another way to state it, Chris, is there's a total amount of money from the overall levy that's going to come.
Right.
And then you put a percentage of that pot in each of these operating funds minus debt service. That's separate. It's money in, money out. So we raise the percentage that we put in transportation, thus decreasing the percentage we put in education. But those fund balances need to be watched because your tax objections that come into the district are a function of the percentage of fund balance to your expenditures. So, you know, the expenditures in ed fund, for example, are so high that a $6 million balance isn't even close to being in trouble. But you can quickly get to $1 million balance here in 2 years and have $400 or $400,000 worth of expenditures. You start to flirt with a tax objection. So, but maybe just the idea that it's a pot of money and then we percentage wise allocate that as a higher percentage to transportation. But then the short change is there's less coming into the ed fund, which has a healthy fund.
So IMRF and Social Security, this is our only fund that is currently going to operate in the red, but it is a very small portion of our overall budget. We won't make any changes to this yet. And I think, you know, when you look over at our fund balance and the shortfall, we have some years that we can eat away at that fund balance before we have to reallocate funds into it. You don't see dramatic increases in this year over year. And so we will have the ability to kind of walk that through and make a decision of when we want to reallocate. But that time isn't now. And again, the overall budget continues to remain, you know, one that more revenue versus expenditure, even though this one fund may exist at a deficit.
Is that increase from last year a function of salary changes plus? Okay.
Absolutely. Yep. So as those go up, increase in that, and so that's where you see the shortfall come. Working cash, we'll see an increase in that. Again, our overall position at 7.7 billion. That has been very beneficial on the interest side for the district. We've seen good returns come from that. And I think that, again, we want to make sure that we keep that working cash there because, you know, if anything were to change or we needed to, you know, continue to look at capital improvements or we needed to add more staff, we will have to have places to draw from in order to do that. And this remains a place that we hold in reserve to make sure that we can meet the needs of the district and our students. And I think keeping that mentality, having that there, knowing that our revenue is increasing, knowing that we have been able to meet the needs of our students, it is not time to yet dip into that working cash. And let's see here, something that you may hear in the news is that Cook County potentially is delaying their tax bills, which means that our revenue is delayed as well. Some districts will start to do what are called short-term loans because they do not have the fund balances to cover that time period. We're in a position where we will not have to do that. So if that were to happen, and you hear people talking about that or have a question yourself, we are able to carry that and make sure that we are fine moving out into the future. This budget overall, moving into the 26th year, I think represents a step forward. We saw increased staffing levels in all positions at our buildings, which again, we know is the majority of our spending. We were able to increase expenditures in areas when we see stress and strain coming from increased prices for materials as well. And even inside of all of that, we are still seeing a budget that minus the capital project is showing more revenue than expenditure. And again, we are operating from a standpoint of conservative revenues, but our expenditures should be fairly on for what we expect to expend for this coming fiscal year. Additional questions?
So revenue from the county typically comes in 2 times the tax bills then?
Correct. Yep. So we see all kinds of revenues come in throughout the year, right? So it's not just, you see our evidence-based funding coming in throughout the year, you see our grants coming in, so our title grants will come in throughout the year. So as you start to go through the monthly reports, you'll always see revenues coming in through different streams for the district.
But I think to be clear that the tax revenues, the levies, you'll get of what you're expecting, you'll get 60% in 1 month. Then you'll get the other 30% in the second month. The last 10% will trickle in the rest of the year. It's not a one-time check.
Other questions? All right, we will continue to move the budget process forward and get the ISB documentation together and present the formal budget at a future board meeting.
Great, thanks for all the work on it. Information or discussion?
So I think that if I could, I think information discussion tonight would center around Dr. Kusnewski and his time in District 95. 15 years ago, when he arrived, I think that maybe he and the community wondered if this would be his first stop, but maybe didn't anticipate it to be his last stop as a superintendent. But it was, and it's because of the amazing community that he found here in District 95. He's worked in many different communities, but I know through discussion, this is one that he has truly come to love working with. And 15 years later, he remains to leave a lasting legacy here with his impact on the community. You know, today we talked about a budget. There's no crisis in our budget. That wasn't always the case in District 95 historically. I'm kind of the district historian. If you go every 10 to 15 years, there's a crisis in funding to the point where there is no money. We're not in that situation. And that's through the work that Dr. Kusnewski has done with the finances of the district. It's a huge credit to him. We went from completely outdated facilities in District 95 to a community that other communities tour when they're planning for their projects. And that really was something that on day one, when Mark came, he jokingly said, this district needs a legitimate gym. But it was about more than that. It was about classrooms. It was about facilities. It was about the things that we were not doing to necessarily hold the bar high. And whether that was through bringing on a new maintenance department and revamping that, Mark really worked to make sure that our students had some of the best facilities. And in his last few years was able to realize that, one, through sound finance, and two, garnering the support of the community for that referendum. And I was a part of this. We went from wondering why our students weren't populating advanced coursework at RB to typically sending 50% of our graduating classes into those advanced classes. The impact of the work that he's done with the teachers and the administrative team and all of our support staff has centered around many different topics that are obviously all key to education. But we've seen our district move forward in those 15 years. And maybe it was 16 years, Mark. 16.
If you want to make me here younger, there's something I can retire.
You can't, you gotta stick around over here. However, with that being said, if you ask Dr. K, you often say that all of that doesn't matter much in education. He's believed in the idea of, are our students happy, right? We've had long discussions about that, about do they go home and talk about the great experiences that they have had with their friends and with the staff, programming that we offer to them. And that answer is a resounding yes. That is truly the lasting legacy that Dr. K will have here in District 95, as both a colleague and a district parent. Dr. K, thank you for your time and your service to the students. It is recognized by many, and it is incredibly important, the work that you have done. And we are all in a much better position to move forward as a district because of the work that you've done. So thank you for your time and service. Thank you.
No lie, didn't think I'd be sitting here 16 years after the first time I toured around. No lie, I walked into that SE Gross Gymnasium, the second floor, and said, there is no way if I stay here that this is going to be the gymnasium. Little did I know that it would turn into thinking about a kindergarten center on Madeline to fifth grade, moving over, which Jackie, I know you still want. Fifth grade, moving over to SE Groves. But there's, everything has been amazing. It didn't take long to realize, and when I did say it didn't take long, it was within months, to see the community. And I think I was just wired. The board that hired me really saw and had a vision of what District 95 could be for the community. We were kind of the whipping child to District 96. That's what we were compared to. And when I looked at what we had, I think that the way I'm wired as the underdog, I was like, we will outpace District 96 in a heartbeat. It took a little bit longer than I thought to get there with facilities. But I can tell you from firsthand experience that we are well past that. And I only have spent about 5 hours in this. So for those of you that aren't aware, I'm stepping away for a couple of months and then helping out District 96. Because they're in a bad spot as they're sharing so I have just a little bit of knowledge of where they are and where we are, and I know that what the board wanted 16 years ago, we're there. But it could not have happened without the school board. And it could not have happened without my team. Let's do it.
That's first time in 16 years. I've seen that.
So just the support of the board to really ask good questions, but to, and politely, just stay out of our way and trust us to do the work and not bog us down, has really allowed the team and I to get the district where we need it to be. You're in great hands. You've got a great team. I can't wait to see me tested.
Thank you.
On behalf of the board, there were a lot of new members of our board. We have a few who've been here. I've been served with you for 7 years, and it's been a true honor. I came on, and my joke is I said to the tech person at the time, I came on in 2019, first day this is opening, we're on tour, and I said, oh, what's it gonna take for Mark to let these kids bring their Chromebooks home? And she said, oh, he takes things really slow, he's really methodical in what he's doing. I'm like, all right, I'll give it, and then, 6 months later, unfortunately, we know what took to bring it home, and but to serve with you during that time, something we all got thrown into, and your leadership and what you did to help us as a board navigate things that were not, to your point, you guys do your jobs. We're here to support you in the best way possible, but the insight you provided, many conversations that we had to have. And now on the other side of it, just to see the flourishing. And as a parent of 3 kids now that have completed in District 95, I couldn't be more proud to live here and to serve on this board and to serve with you. And I know we're very excited to serve under Ryan and see what's next. If you've left us, I mean, I always tell people, you don't understand the position our superintendent financially has left us in. It's such a crazy time that we know we're in good hands, and you can walk away knowing you've done that. So thank you so much, Mark.
I mean, I do think, you know, you're gonna be most remembered for that time you were crossing guard.
Yes. Yes.
All things.
Of all things. But I echo Katie's sentiment. I think, you know, when we joined the board 6 years ago, like, you never know what you're gonna walk into. But it was amazing to see, like, every step of the way, there was a plan for something. Like, we had Chromebooks when other districts didn't have Chromebooks. Like, it was like you could see into the future or something. But it was just like that dedicated planning that you always had going in your team. And it was just incredible to see and witness, and it made our job so much easier. You know, I talked to other people on other boards, and I mean, we're so lucky that you guys are so dedicated and professional and ethical. But we really appreciate all that you've done, and you will be missed for sure. And you're welcome to come back anytime, talk about budgets.
We'll let you know when the levy's gonna
Yeah.
be discussed.
Public comment.
Yeah, actually, if you could come back and right around levy time.
Do a little levy 101
Yeah.
with us.
Well, I feel honored that you said that, because I remember when Brian left the board, everyone's like, please don't ever come back to public council. Well,
I just also want to ditto everything that they said. I was, appointed on the board 4 years ago, and it's been a great experience. I get emotional, so if I cry, it's just because I just get emotional. Well, yes.
That is when she went down.
I can't watch people cry. But you've taught me from just seeing how a district works from the administrative perspective, you taught me so much, and I just appreciate all the work you did.
That's all we have for information and
Okay.
discussion.
So we will adjourn. We're gonna adjourn 8:22. Can I get a motion, please?
I motion to adjourn at 8:22.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Awesome. All right.